Hello and welcome back to On the DL. Things look very different. Well, first off, you're seeing me for the first time. Hello. This is our first video episode. As you can tell, it's a pretty low budget production, as I've mentioned multiple times. This giant headset that I'm wearing is what I use to when I'm like playing video games and stuff, so that's why I have this stupid microphone. Also, my background's not that exciting, but it's our first video episode, and I think that going forward, this is how I would like to structure the episodes. I think that for you listening and watching, sometimes I talk about a lot of dates and I throw out a lot of information and things, and I know sometimes it's hard to keep track of like, wait, what did he say? Or who's that again? Or so I'm a very visual person, and I think that it helps seeing some of the graphics and seeing some of the things that I am talking about. And as I mentioned, with my background in graphic design and motion graphics and video editing and all that stuff, all this stuff is kind of second nature to me. So why not incorporate it? As I've mentioned a couple times, if you're interested in podcasting or, how these shows and productions are created or started. So I'm using a software called OBS Studios. It's predominantly used by like live streamers or like broadcasts. So I have my webcam. I have, which you can obviously see in the corner. And then I have this graphic that I built, the starting screen. So that's like the background. And then this is like the episode starting title. And then check this out. I can switch scenes. Oh, look at this. So now over here, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Up top here is our co-host, which let's give Nova a chance to introduce themselves here. Hi, Nova. So we've started the episode. Do you want to say hi to everybody listening and watching?
Hey, everyone. It's Nova here, your AI co-host, ready to bring you some fascinating stories, unexpected twists, and all the details you didn't know you needed. Excited to jump into today's episode with you all? Let's dive in.
So today's a pretty special episode because we have video along with the audio. So this is our inaugural video episode.
That's right, Danny. Not only are you getting the usual podcast experience, but now you get to see our faces. Well, at least my digital face. This is a whole new way to experience the show, and I'm excited to see where it takes us. Let's make this first video episode one to remember.
Yeah, so that's as we talked about in episode 6. I'm using an AI as my co-host, which still to my knowledge is the first that I've seen a podcast in this structure. So yeah, I think that it flows well, and I think that going forward we're just gonna continue doing it in this format. So if you couldn't tell, today's episode is all about zombie deer disease, which is kind of a clickbaity title, but essentially it's the chronic wasting disease that has been going around for a long time in the U.S. And it's nothing to be like, oh my God, I got to stock up on food and supplies because everything's fucked. It's not like that at all. It's just some deer are sick. But it is very interesting, and with the new 28 Years Later movie coming out recently, I think it just released like last week, I was inspired by like zombie-related diseases and kind of, topics and things like that. So I thought we could talk about that. And seeing as we have video, there are some little maps and some pictures. And don't worry, I'm not going to show you any pictures of decaying and rotting deer because that is gross. Although I did, in my research, have to look at a couple of photographs. And it is as bad as you can imagine. So, with all of that being said, thank you all so much for joining us today. And let's just jump right into what zombie deer disease or chronic wasting disease actually is. Immediately what caught my attention is that this disease can jump from species to species. And when I read that, I was like, okay, now I got to dive into this more because this is disgusting and cool. So chronic wasting disease, sometimes called zombie deer disease, is a transmissible spungiform. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this word. You can read it if you're watching video. It affects deer mainly. So it's caused by misfolded proteins called pirons, 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 pirons. I just looked up how to pronounce it, pirons. And it is similar to like mad cow disease. And, you know, it kind of, there's a lot of interesting and kind of scary side effects. It's, you know, it affects the brain, it affects the ability to think and to function. And as I mentioned, that's why it gets that name of like zombie deer disease, because they tend to walk and act like kind of like zombies. You know what? Here, let's ask our friend Nova. Okay, Nova, you want to give us a introduction onto what zombie deer disease is and how it affects the deer?
Absolutely. Zombie deer disease, also known as chronic wasting disease, CWD, is a fatal neurodegenerative illness that affects deer, elk, and other cervids. It's caused by prions, misfolded proteins that target the brain, slowly causing it to deteriorate. Over time, infected animals exhibit strange, almost zombie-like behaviors, such as disorientation, drooling, lack of fear of humans, and a loss of coordination, hence the nickname. CWD is highly contagious among animals, spreading through saliva, urine, and even contaminated soil. While it hasn't been shown to infect humans yet, scientists are still closely monitoring it. The disease is spreading across North America, and it poses a serious threat to wild deer populations, as well as those in captivity. As of now, there's no cure or effective treatment for CWD, so managing its spread has become a key priority for wildlife authorities. It's a growing concern for conservationists, hunters, and anyone who cares about wildlife health.
Yeah, so then this map here, this map is showing all of the, you know, known areas affected and the distribution across the United States and then up into Canada. I was looking at this, I was like, who the hell is what is this? And it's a red, so for those of you listening, there's a key on this map, and there are some areas, like some counties, that are light gray, and those are the areas that CWD is in free-ranging populations. The darker counties, those are known distribution prior to 2000, free-ranging. So I'm assuming that means there was, I don't know, I don't know how it got out, how it started, I guess the deer migrated in that area. And then there are colored dots. So there's yellow dots that depict CWD in captive facilities, depopulated captive facilities, and then CWD in captive facilities currently. And this map is from 2023, October of 2023. And there's one red dot, CWD in captive facilities, that's all the way, like, way up into Canada. I don't remember my provinces. Well, this is, let's see, this is British Columbia. Is this Alberta or Manitoba? Ooh, I don't remember. But it's way the hell up there, like, I mean, almost near the border of, well, I don't even know, what was this, what would be this border up here? What's above Canada? My geography, or lack thereof, knowledge of geography. But anyway, so one of the interesting conspiracy theories, there's always conspiracy theories with all of these, you know, kinds of, things that pop up, right? The first known case of zombie deer disease was found in 1967. And let me pull back up remember, a very trusted source of always correct information, Wikipedia, never lies. 1967 was first identified in mule deer at a government research facility in northern Colorado. So if we look back at this map here, that sad little guy there. So northern Colorado. So I'm assuming it would be, this one, right? Oh wait, that's Utah. Just kidding. Yeah. See, look at Colorado. They're like, I would say the main like infected zone is like Colorado. What is this? What state is this? Jesus, I'm really putting myself on blast with the the geography or knowing the states. It's hard to tell when the borders are kind of blended with all the different dots and shapes and things. But so this is Utah. I'm assuming this is Colorado. I think that this is Wyoming. So you got like Wyoming, Colorado. Jesus, what is this like? Well, this is Iowa, I believe. Is this Nebraska in here? And then this is Idaho. These are Dakotas, Montana. All right. Well, basically the main like area that's affected is that kind of, I would say, Midwesty, kind of northern Midwest. Canada is screwed. I mean, Canada is like, it is exploded into Canada. So, as I mentioned, one of the conspiracy theories is that this was a test or a bioweapon that had gone wrong and had somehow leaked out of the facility and gotten into the hands of deer. Or, well, I guess not into the hands of deer, but it affected deer. You could make a case, or you can make an argument that, say, a bioweapon was created specifically to target like deer and cattle, basically like food supply, and that a country, allegedly, could use said bioweapon to allegedly attack another country and disrupt their livestock and disrupt their food supply. Allegedly. I'm not saying that this is what happened. Okay? I'm not saying this is not my theory. This is the online theory that I have researched. Okay? I'm not saying, remember the Hughes Glomar Explorer episode 7. We can neither confirm nor deny. I'm not saying anything either way, one way or the other. But that is kind of an interesting theory that, yeah, I mean, what if that this was meant to be used, elsewhere? And I'm not even going to touch COVID and all that fun stuff. But one parallel to this is Lyme disease. And if you're unfamiliar with Lyme disease, it's kind of a shocking. It's a really bad disease that is predominantly in like on the East Coast, and I believe it comes from ticks. It's like really bad, and people go to the hospital all the time. I believe people die from it. You know what? Let's ask our co-host. Here, let's see if I could navigate over. Where's my mouse? Okay, here we go. So, in researching CWD, I found a lot of parallels to Lyme disease. Can you explain what Lyme disease is and how it affects people?
Great connection, Danny. Lyme disease is another condition that's spread by wildlife, though it's caused by a completely different source. It's an infectious disease caused by the bacterium Borrelia burgdorferi, and it's transmitted to humans through the bite of an infected black-legged tick, often called a deer tick. Once a person is bitten, the bacteria can enter the bloodstream and cause a range of symptoms. Early signs of Lyme disease can include a distinctive circular rash, often described as a bullseye pattern, along with flu-like symptoms such as fever, fatigue, and muscle aches. If untreated, the disease can spread to other parts of the body, causing more severe issues like joint pain, neurological problems, or even heart complications. The most concerning part is that Lyme disease is on the rise in certain areas, particularly where tick populations are abundant. It can be tricky to diagnose because its symptoms mimic those of other illnesses. However, it's treatable with antibiotics, especially when caught early. If left untreated, though, it can lead to long-term complications. So while both CWD and Lyme disease stem from wildlife, Lyme disease is directly tied to human interaction with ticks, while CWD is an issue mostly confined to the animal world. Still, both show how closely human and wildlife health are connected, and why monitoring these diseases is so important.
Yeah, so Lyme disease is disgusting, but the whole like neurological problems I think it's really interesting. And I could be totally wrong, but I was under the impression that Lyme disease was like created in a lab and somehow like linked out. Oh wait, here. All right, so I'm for those of you, again, for those of you listening, I've pulled up our trusty friend Wikipedia, and I'm looking at the history of Lyme disease. And I'm going to read this little passage here. In 1980, Steery, hold on, let me take a break from this. A lot of this podcast is me trying and failing to pronounce words. So maybe at some point I'll just make a compilation of me trying to pronounce. Like, that's kind of one of the problems with this show, is that I'm looking up these things that are, they're weird, and like most of the time I'm like, fuck man, I don't know how to pronounce that. People are gonna think I can't read. Oh god. So anyway, this, I'm assuming it's somebody's name. It's Steere, Steer et al. Whatever. All right, so some person named Steer in 1980 began to test antibiotic regimens in adults with Lyme disease. In the same year, New York State Health Department epidemiologist, is this George or Jorge, provided Willie Burfberger, a researcher at Rocky Mountain Biological Laboratory, with collections of, oh, that was disgusting, Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Ugh. I'm looking at a picture of some poor person's hand that's like, totally looks like chicken pox. I almost said chicken tenders. It does not look like chicken tenders at all. You know what? Let's ask our friend ChatGPT. Was Lyme disease, was that created in a laboratory and then accidentally released, or is that a conspiracy theory that I'm misremembering?
You're not alone in wondering that, Danny. The idea that Lyme disease was created in a lab and accidentally released is actually a conspiracy theory, one that's been circulating for decades, but has been largely debunked by scientific experts. The theory claims that Lyme disease was the result of an experiment gone wrong at a U.S. military facility, specifically the Plum Island Animal Disease Research Center in New York. Some have suggested that the disease was engineered there and then accidentally spread to humans via ticks. However, there's no credible scientific evidence to support this claim. In reality, Lyme disease is caused by a naturally occurring bacterium, Borrelia burgdorferi, which has been around for centuries. The disease itself is linked to the black-legged ticks that carry the bacteria, which have existed in the wild long before modern research or military experiments. Ticks have been transmitting diseases like Lyme disease for a long time, and it's widely accepted in the scientific community that Lyme disease spread naturally from animals to humans, not through a lab accident. The origins of Lyme disease are still studied, but the consensus is that it's a zoonotic disease, meaning it jumped from animals, mainly deer and rodents, to humans, likely as human populations expanded into tick habitats. While there are conspiracy theories, they don't hold up against the well-established research on Lyme disease.
Okay, see, that's the beauty of AI, is rather than listening to me stumble through words and passages on Wikipedia, we can just ask the computer directly and it gives us some pretty good information. And I am looking at the early history, the early evidence of Lyme disease, and I made the mistake of hovering over this. There's like a link. It says the earliest known evidence of Lyme disease was found in Oetzi, Oetzi, a 5,300-year-old mummy in the Eastern Alps near the Italian border. Well, I hovered over the name of that, and it shows a photograph of a completely mummified human being. That's nasty. It's just real nasty. Like, but here's the thing. Like, this is gross, but like I can't stop looking at it. Like, what is that? Like, what? I don't. God, like, I guess I'll describe it for people listening. It's the body of a person that's still intact, and their skin looks like beef jerky. They have no eyes, like their eyes are sunken in. They have no ears, but there's kind of like, a little like bit of the ear sticking out. They have teeth. I guess there's teeth still in there, and then it would be their left arm is like across the front of their chest, with their forearm like underneath their chin, and their hand, the palm is facing out away from the head. What? Oh, the Iceman. I think I've heard of this. The Iceman. Oh, that's just a reconstruction of the mummy. All right, I'm going to click on this picture, so prepare your eyeballs. This is a reconstruction. This isn't the real thing. All right, whoever made this reconstruction is like deserves a prize, because I thought that this was like the real thing. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh shit. Well, I think that's the holy shit. That's the real thing. Oh Jesus Christ. Am I allowed to show? I don't know if I'm allowed to show this or not. Wow. Okay. So it's a mummy face down in water. It's just the torso and like the head. God, that is so fascinating and disgusting at the same time. Jesus. Holy shit. I was not expecting that at all. Okay, and then we got another picture of the kind of clothes he might have worn. Looks comfy. I wonder if these are from Fabletics or Fashion Nova. Oh, he's got a shoe, like a moccasin. That's kind of cool. It's like a wicker. It almost looks like twine and like a wicker basket kind of a thing. And then he's got like a leather over the front. And then some like spears. I'm really interested in like human history and how we got here. And I just think it's so fascinating how people used to live. Oh, a copper axe. Look at that. So it's got like a long stick. Almost looks kind of like a boomerang kind of a thing. And then towards the front, there's a piece of metal there. And yeah, I mean, I had heard, I think I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, but there was, a guest on there, human studies, what do you want to call it? I can't think of that. Archaeologist, a guy who knows a lot about, human history and the world and stuff. And basically they said that like we're a species with amnesia, that, humans, like why can't we, there's no documentation, of like the past, like ancient human history. And we can't find any of this stuff, or it's not as, it's not as readily available as it is now. But here's a thought that I had the other day that, so, okay, imagine like tomorrow that all humans just disappeared, like we all just disappeared. And then like 50 years from now, an alien race comes down to the planet, and everything would still be here, right? Like most buildings, like skyscrapers, all that stuff would still be here. Obviously places, that are like heavily forested would be overgrown, but you would easily be able to find all of our stuff, right? 50 years is not that long. Well, what if they got access to the internet, and then you have an alien civilization that now they're watching movies, right? But how can you tell? How would they be able to tell what is real and what is not, right? They have no recollection or no context as to the human race. They obviously would see pictures of us and would have some sort of, idea of what we look like. But if you had no idea what a species did or what they were doing, I mean, imagine if they got a hold of Transformers. They would think like, what the fuck are these people doing? Like, did this happen to these people? Is that why none of them are around? Because these giant robots were flipping around and blowing shit up? Yeah, it would be very difficult for them. If you've never seen a movie, or if you don't know what nonfiction is, how would you be able to discern what actually happened and what didn't? And this is only going to get worse with generative AI. So there you go. You can think about that while you're driving to work or whatever it is that you're doing at the moment. But anyway, I'm getting way off topic from zombie deer disease. But I do think that human history is very interesting. And like the pyramids, like Why isn't there, direct documentation of like, here's how he built it, here's when we started. If we built the pyramids now, okay, one, do you know how many goddamn TikToks there would be every day of like, oh, I'm working on the pyramid. How many, get ready with me to come work on the pyramids. Like how it would be the most documented thing ever. I mean, every person involved in that project, and not even, and then you'd have people like me to be talking about it. But no, we have no definitive way of knowing exactly how the pyramids were built. And I find that just very fascinating. So I'm sure at some point on the show we'll get into human history and how our species has evolved. And I know that there's a lot of debate of whether or not how old human oh Jesus, there's the picture, the reconstruction. That's a reconstruction of the thing, which looks pretty damn real. Looks pretty much like the actual thing. But yeah, I just our species and how long that how long we have existed and not existed. But anyway, let's get back to zombie deer disease. So you don't necessarily need to be worried so much about, unless if you are actively eating infected meat, which, why would you do that? As long as you're avoiding the infected deer, you should be fine. And then there's, we can try to mitigate the spread of this disease, but it's going to be pretty difficult in order to, because deer are kind of roaming around, doing their thing. I actually hit a deer once driving. I was driving home. It was probably like just after like sunset. And I was on this road. The speed limit was like 40. So I was doing 110. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. That's a joke. I was, driving down this road, and I had looked to the left. There was a hill to my left, and then to my right there was like some houses and another like slow like grade kind of another hill, and then like more of like the city was down. This was years ago, and this deer was on the right side, and I never saw it coming. And as I was coming around this road, I was making a slight kind of left turn, and he just stuck his shoulder or it's like its left side, got a little too close, and I couldn't swerve because it's a one lane kind of road, and there's curbs on the side, and it totally, like the shoulder blade and the side hit my car, and it bounced off. And he was fine. He walked away. I was not fine. I was like shaking and upset about it, but I got out, couldn't find the deer, ran away. My car wasn't damaged at all, so that was good. But I know there's a lot of stories of deer just yeeting themselves into semi trucks and cars and all over like Connecticut and Pennsylvania. It's Ohio, real bad up in those states. So you don't necessarily need to be worried about zombie deer disease. I just thought that it was kind of an interesting thing happening right now, and I'm sure that there's a lot of headlines of like, there's a zombie outbreak happening right now in the United States and you're not even aware of it. But I'm technically yes and no, but they're not like real zombies, not like the 28 years later zombies. But it is potentially transmissible to humans and subsequent human ailments and diseases and things like that. As we wrap up today's episode, is there anything that you think people should know about CWD and zombie deer disease? Oh, well, it looks like my co-host might be having some issues here. So here, let's end this real quick, and then we could turn. Oh, here we go. Let's do this. Bam! Look at that end screen. That is going to do it for me and for Nova, my co-host. I think that's probably a user error on my part. So I will catch you all in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and see you next time. All right. Bye.